Hello, everyone, to the Jewish Week Online. I'm your host, Herman. What does it take to be a rabbi in the Navy? We had the opportunity to speak with Daniel Millner, a candidate to become a chaplain in the U.S. Navy. Let's take a closer look. Being part of the Navy is being an American Jew is really a fabric of Judaism and really immersing yourself into society. Tell us why you decided to pick that path.
So several reasons. The first is that I've always been very proud to be an American. I've always felt very thankful to be a Jew living in the United States. And I think that as a part of expressing that gratitude, I always felt that I wanted to serve. I wanted to serve my country, particularly through the military, because I wanted to actively help defend the Constitution, which guaranteed me my right to express my Judaism any way I chose. And it's really for that reason that being a chaplain made the most sense to me, to be able to integrate my faith with my love for this country and to serve it. And the other reasons why I want to become a chaplain and why I currently am a chaplain candidate in the U.S. Navy is because I think that we as American Jews tend not to think about the fact that there are Jews actively serving this country in the armed forces. They tend to be a marginalized group, let's say even subgroup of the larger Jewish community. There are organizations out there that address their needs, but by and large, they're not on the radar of the mainstream Jewish community across the denominations, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, Reconstructionist, and anything else, Renewal. It's just not on our radar screen. And there are Jews out there that need help, that need spiritual guidance, that have spiritual needs. And I wanted to specifically address those needs and speak to those people that are kind of pushed to the side and marginalized, and make it more, sort of bring it, emphasize it more on the to the larger Jewish communities as a population that's worth noting. And I also think that as American Jews, we're kind of disconnected in a way from the rest of the country in terms of the people that go to serve, the people that are out there having to make these decisions to go and serve in Afghanistan right now. There's a kind of a disconnect. We feel very comfortable connecting with Israeli soldiers, people that you have really nothing in common with except for the fact that you're Jewish, but people in our own backyards that come from different cultural backgrounds, that come from different religious traditions, that come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. We feel very disconnected from them. And so I wanted to sort of bridge that gap through serving. And I can tell you that in the 2 trainings that I've done with the Navy, I have been so enriched from the experiences that I've had reaching out and being a part of communities that I would have never otherwise been able to come into contact with.
So walk us through, like, what exactly does it mean to be a chaplain, especially in the Navy? What type of what is your responsibility for? Is it counseling? Is it like, what's the process for you?
Right. So just to clarify, right now I'm a CCPO. I'm a chaplain candidate. Mm-hmm. Upon getting ordained, I'll have the ability to what we call supersede and become either an active duty chaplain, reserve chaplain, or walk away from it all. So I'm currently in that process. But the main job of the chaplain is, as the Navy says, to serve those of like faith, facilitate for others, and care for all. So my role as a rabbi would be to serve the specific spiritual and ritual needs of Jewish sailors, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen. But as a chaplain, my job is to make sure that everybody is in a good place spiritually, and that means pastoral counseling for everybody. That means being able to refer when something is sort of above my pay grade. Meaning there's a serious psychological issue or a medical issue. Chaplain's not there to fix that, but the chaplain needs to be able to get that person the help that they need. And in addition to that, the chaplain's job really is to ensure the exercise of free religion, which means that if we have Muslim sailors that need to pray, my job as the chaplain is to make sure that that happens. My job is not to be there to pray with them or to take any kind of ritual role in their prayer, but I need to ensure that their needs are factored into the chaplain's budget, that they can have the objects and the space that they need, and that they can enjoy their religious practices without fear of persecution or disruption. And that's really your job, is really first and foremost to ensure the freedom of the free exercise of religion on the ship or base or wherever you happen to be.
How many Orthodox rabbis are there within, I guess, this unit?
Within the Navy, I'm not sure how many Orthodox rabbis there are exactly. Very few. I can tell you there are very few Jews in the military in general. And the Navy tends to have a smaller number of Jews than the Army, and a smaller number of Jewish chaplains than the Army. Traditionally, I think it's always kind of been that way. So in terms of the numbers, I can't tell you, but in terms of the need, I can tell you there is a need for a stronger Jewish presence in the armed forces across the branches, but in the Navy in particular.
Can you share a quick story of something that really surprised you during this process?
Yeah. Well, can I give you two stories?
Sure.
Make them quick. So last year, I completed Officer Development School in Newport, Rhode Island, which is basically basic training for staff corps officers. So in this 5-week training program, you had doctors, lawyers, dentists, nurses, and chaplains all trained together. And the goal is to teach you military bearing, to teach you how to be an effective, confident, competent naval officer, first and foremost. Your specialty, they believe you are competent in, but they need to train you how to be a naval officer, first and foremost. So unlike the Army, which has a more integrated, I think, kind of chaplain program where they integrate your being a chaplain with your being an officer in the Army, in the Navy, the officer aspect is sort of hammered down first, and then comes the staff corps, your specialty training. So first and foremost, they want to teach you how the Navy works. And that means all the fun stuff, the running, the screaming, the push-ups, all that good stuff. It was a lot of fun. But I remember two things. The first thing was I was the only Jew in my company. Not just the only Orthodox Jew. I was the only Jew in my company. We were a company of about 43 people. And I remember I felt very good that I was fitting in, and that I was making friends very quickly, and I really loved the guys in my company, and I felt very good that I was fitting in, and that we were all working together. And I stopped really thinking about the fact that what made me different from these people was that I was the only Jew there. I stopped thinking about that until we got to the first Friday night at Officer Training Command Newport, and we were on Nimitz Field doing marching drills, teaching us how to march. You'd be surprised when you join the military how quickly you never realize you didn't know your right from your left. And so we were marching for an hour or so, just doing drills, and our chief petty officer, stops us and has us all stand at attention as the sun is about to set. And our chief tells us, basically gives us a pep talk, a motivational speech, telling us that in a few moments, as the sun sets, they're going to do evening colors. So they're going to take the flag down. And the flag, which will go to sleep tonight, the flag will go to sleep unlike naval officers. Naval officers never sleep. Naval officers make sure that the citizens of this country who go to sleep like the flag can wake up and enjoying the same freedoms they did the night before. That's the job of the naval officer. You don't sleep. And she said to keep watching the sunset, because with that sunset comes evening colors. And it was that moment that all the warm feelings, the good feelings I had about fitting in vanished. Because as I was standing there at attention, unable to move, and as the sun was setting on Friday night, I realized that I was different. That the rest of my company was watching evening colors. They were watching a sunset. I was watching Shabbos. I was watching God sanctify the world and resting. And there was nothing I can do about it. I wanted to jump up and scream the Chuna Ranana. I wanted to do something, but I couldn't. It was a profound moment of tension I felt at that moment, realizing that I am different, but that I'm in this together with everybody else. And that moment, first of all, it gave me a greater appreciation for Shabbos, for the ability to go to shul, for the ability to daven as we want. But it also made me aware of the fact that this life that I'm choosing is going to mean I'm going to have to sacrifice, that I'm going to have to be put into situations that are going to challenge me, that are going to make me uncomfortable, and that's part of what being a Jew in the military, in the American military, is about. So that's a first story, which sort of speaks about the tension I had realizing my particularism in the group. But the second story is about the opposite. Officer Development School in the Navy, and boot camp in the Navy in general, is not the place you go to learn about being an individual. It's not the place you go for personal, individual expression. It's a place where conformity is number one. Everybody works together, does the same activities together. We walk the same. We talk the same, we dress the same, and we eat the same. And 3 times a day, we would walk into the galley, which was the chow hall, the food hall, the dining hall, and we would get our trays, and they would all be set the exact same way, the plate in a certain place, and the forks and knives in a certain area, and the cup had to be just right, and we would have to sit at a modified position of attention, and our eyes would have to be directly at the person in front of us, or across from us, in silence. You had 15 minutes to eat, and that's it, and then you left. And so everything, I mean, you could feel the conformity in everything that you did. But I remember that even at the meals, when we would all sit in silence, doing the exact same thing, eating in the exact same way, when I was around the other chaplains, the meals were the time when the Roman Catholic priest across from me would cross himself, and the Baptist chaplain next to him would fold his hands in prayer and take a moment of silent meditation, and the Eastern Orthodox priest next to him would do the same. And everybody had their own individual way of expressing God at that moment. I would obviously wash my hands and pick up the bread and make hamotzi on it. And we would all, in a world of complete conformity, religion was the means by which we expressed our individuality. And even though we all had a different concept of God, a different image of God, perhaps at the moment when we were making our own individual prayers, our own individual blessings, we were all united by the fact that we were all people of faith. And even though we expressed that faith in different terms, it was a bond that united all of the chaplains. And it was a bond that happened in silence, because we couldn't speak, but we watched each other, and we all realized that we were brothers and sisters. And so that's a moment where our particularism actually united us. So those are two stories, two of my favorite stories that I remember from my training in officer development school in Newport, Rhode Island.
Hearing your stories, it shows so many different parts of Judaism and a personal, personal sacrifice, but the willingness to really be a light unto the nations and be there for people, Jews and non-Jews, but showing sort of the best of Judaism. How do you feel by being like that person? You're that beacon of like light. You're that beacon of saying, first of all, Judaism means so much to me. I want to share with the world, but it's a big responsibility. Does it get overwhelming at times?
Yes, because the stakes are very high. For some of these people, I was the first Jew they ever really met. And so the one slip up, one error, if I did something wrong, if I didn't lock my locker just right and everybody had to do 30 push-ups because I didn't lock my locker, that in my eyes was a chilul Hashem. I would have caused the desecration of God's name if I, the only Jew in that unit, caused that to happen. Thank God that never happened. Thank God that never happened. And I made it a point to never be that guy. You don't want to be, in boot camp, you don't want to be that guy. So, but I realized that the stakes were very high. And everything I did counted, and everyone was looking at every little thing I did. But that also means, and it also meant to me, that the opportunities to do Kiddushei Hashem, to glorify God's name, were also very high.
As you can see, being a rabbi in the Navy is a truly unique experience. Being a light unto the nations is sometimes complicated, but having the right people on the ground helping those in need is critical. This is Herman. Thanks for watching.